Paranormal activities occur throughout the world. Join our hosts on their journey through the unknown. Welcome to Supernaturally Speaking.
Welcome to the first episode of Supernaturally Speaking. I am Troy Malinowski.
And I'm Justin Acosta.
And this show is going to be about the paranormal and supernatural creatures that have shown up in myth, legend, lore, and some would believe even in reality. So tonight we're going to start off with my partner Justin here.
All right. So with some research, thanks to Google, I came across on yourghoststories.com. This is written by Anonymous520.
Glad to see the Anonymous are numbering themselves these days.
This is in California and begins with... Before I begin, this house was built studs up in 2008. So it's pretty new, and no previous owner I know of died. It is a spacious 4-bedroom house. So my question is, why did these series of incidents happen? Nothing ever happened in our new house until this one incident. Any insights are helpful. All right. It all started after a car accident. I still remember I hit a big truck that day. I had my 2 children with me, and I was very fortunate nothing happened to us. And the trucker let it go. On the way home, I kind of felt dazed, probably from the car accident. When we got home, I opened the door, and that's when it began. Right when the front door opened, I heard a distinct, clear, "Why, thank you." I'm not going to lie, I thought maybe I hurt my head from the crash and was hearing things. But right before I even uttered a word, my then 5-year-old son says, "Mommy, did you hear that? Someone said, 'Why, thank you.'" I was so relieved to know it wasn't in my head, but not so relieved knowing no one was home.
Of course not.
After the incident, a series of strange incidents began happening. We started hearing someone playing a piano every night around 8 p.m., and it sounded like it was coming from the attic. But there's no stairway to the attic. You need a ladder. We would also hear knocking on the walls every day. My husband said it might be a rat stuck in between the walls or something, so I decided one day I would knock on the wall 2 times. And that's when my then 2-year-old daughter and I freaked out, because it knocked back 2 times. Right when that happened, my daughter and I walked out the nursery, and that's when an ornament came rolling out of the nursery after us. Needless to say, we stayed out of there for the rest of the day. Not soon after, my daughter started seeing a white cat in our house every day. She would ask me why the white cat always comes and leaves and comes back again. And then my son would see a little girl petting our dog every once in a while. But the one incident that really scared us all was when my father-in-law came over one day. Now, we have a toaster that also has an egg maker. Well, when my father-in-law walks by, the egg maker looked as if it was thrown at my father-in-law and fell to the floor. We all looked in disbelief. And he came to conclude maybe when he walked by, it caused a vibration for it to bounce off.
This guy's got to be huge if he's vibrating something to the point where they're assuming it was thrown at them.
Now, after that, many series of incidents continued to happen. But the scariest had to be when we started seeing doppelgangers of each other. I remember putting my son to sleep, and he was sleeping on my lap. As he drifted off sleeping, I looked up and saw my son sitting in a corner with a grin. I was speechless, because how can that be when he is sleeping on my lap? A few days later, my son was in the living room talking to someone. When I asked who he was talking to, his jaw just dropped. He said he was talking to his sister. But how can that be when his sister was sitting next to me? The last incident was when my husband saw someone sitting on the living room floor and to his surprise, he realized he was staring at himself. That was the last incident that led us to calling the pastor. The pastor and a few other people came and blessed the whole house. After, we no longer see anything. But we would still occasionally hear things. However, we never understood how we lived at the house for almost a year and nothing happened until the car accident. Is there a connection? If anyone has some insight, I would be grateful.
Okay, so first things first. She's asking for insight from people who she won't list the city. It's just in California. I don't know if any of our listeners know this, but California is pretty fucking big. Okay, so by not giving us a city, it's hard to give you insight because we have no history or any idea. Because you're right, it doesn't mean it's in the house or has to do with the house, but the city itself could be. There are very many haunted cities across the country.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a very interesting story. I find some of the verbiage she used kind of entertaining, like the fact that she when she got home, she said she was feeling a little dazed, probably from the accident. Unless you're toking it up before you're picking up your kids, I'm pretty sure it's from the accident. Okay. Now, initially, I thought head trauma, something.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, that would make sense.
Exactly.
But in stressful situations and when adrenaline's pumping, it's been proven that stress like that does have effect on the body, a physical change. So it very
changes
well could,
your whole memory of the incidents, all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it could very easily have opened a doorway, so to speak, in their minds, which would allow them to start noticing these things. Now, where this stuff is coming from, again, without a location, because again, it may not be the house, but the land itself. Anything could have happened on the land, but without a location, can't really help them out in any sense or give any. And nobody can really give insight on that.
But what about the doppelgangers?
The doppelgangers, again, that is actually a theory that creeps me out a little bit, because the theory I have come to know regarding doppelgangers is the fact that when a doppelganger decides to choose you, their whole point is to take your place and to remove you. So really, it comes down to a one-on-one kind of battle, which is why a lot of times, a lot of people who believe in that particular theory, they're very much like, pray you don't run into yourself. Pray you don't run into the doppelganger looking like you, because then you're going to have a serious problem.
Because there can only be one.
Correct. I wish Lambert was here, with his Highlander sword and everything, because that's pretty much what this is. Okay. Secondly,
or Jet Li. Or Jet Li.
Yeah, Jet Li. That's right. We're going Asian on that one. I forgot about that one. Also, who the hell has an attic with no ladder up to it? What kind of...
this house was built in 2008.
Yeah.
I don't understand, that doesn't make any sense. At least a drop down or something.
Yeah. Even the house in Christmas Vacation had a ladder that came flying down. Okay? And, I think it would make more sense to hear that a house in California has a basement than to hear that they have an attic with no ladder going up. Okay?
You know what? Now that I think about it, none of the houses I've lived in had ladders.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's
they just had the little...
Thinking about it, you're right. And the sad part is like, now that I think about it, she didn't really specify whether there was one story or two, so now I kind of feel like an asshole. But because I don't either. But I'm gonna one story.
I'm gonna go with two, based on the amount of rooms.
Yeah, it's possible.
4-bedroom.
And again, without a location, we can't really judge on what kind of housing is around there.
But this is an anonymous,
exactly, number style. 5 something. So I find the tough part about hearing things and especially with children is, children, I'm a firm believer that children are a lot more open to this sort of thing and to the other side. But the tough part too is children also have difficulty, especially at such young ages, interpreting what's going on. So it's possible that, it's interesting that her son heard the same thing. So that's interesting. That's actually one interesting thing. And the fact that the son, before she even said anything, according to her, the son repeated exactly what she heard.
Yeah.
So I did find that interesting, and again, it's tough to really pinpoint what it is.
Was it a man's voice?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Was it
a child's voice? Because then I'd be
know,
freaked the fuck out.
And exactly. Now, if it was a child, absolutely, I'd be a little more concerned at that point.
Like, no, I'm good.
And then the part of me too
house.
is, did she maybe she said nobody was in the house, but how do you know what if her husband was coming up behind her and thought she was opening the door for him, and he was like, "Why, thank you." But again, we'll go with the fact that it came from the house, and she didn't specify one way or the other that her husband was there. So, the white cat, that's odd, only because of the fact that it seems, a white cat's interesting because in a lot of situations like this, when cats are involved, they tend to be black or darker in shade.
Yeah.
Very rarely is it a white cat. The piano is odd, but not completely odd because instruments are typically heard often.
Yeah.
So, it's weird that it's specifically a piano and up in the attic. Now, I would have been interested to hear if they'd actually gone up in the attic.
True.
To look around. Okay. And she says, to her knowledge, nobody died in the house, nothing happened, nothing like that happened. But she doesn't really elaborate as to how far in depth she looked. Like, if you ask a neighbor, that's not enough.
Yeah. And the realtors aren't,
no, realtors.
they're not going to.
Realtors won't, but again, you can go to a library and go through newspaper clippings and basically put in, hell, you can go to the internet.
Yeah.
These days. Put in your address and see what comes up.
Did she look up to see if anything happened before?
Exactly.
Blah,
a lot can happen.
Yeah.
A lot can happen in, she wrote the story and you said 2016?
Well, it was posted in
2016.
Yeah.
So let's assume that's when she wrote it.
Okay.
Let's assume that's when she wrote it, and it took place. She said about a year.
2009. We'll go with.
Okay, 2009.
9, maybe 10.
Maybe you know what? I would say 10 because she said the house was built in 2008, and she implies that there was a former owner.
It could have been in 2016 because she said that she doesn't know anything about.
Yeah. So let's say 14 or 15 because she said it was like a year after they moved into the house.
True. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say is the earliest, or the later, whatever, could be the 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that is about 7 years.
7 to 8 years.
7 years, a lot can happen. Anything can happen, and sometimes none of it even reaches the news.
True.
Something could have happened and just nothing was ever brought up or nobody inquired about it.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff could relate to what's going on. The doppelgangers is, again, hard to really explain. And it's odd that every one of them saw
the doppelgangers.
Except for
the father-in-law. Well,
no, but here's the interesting thing I thought about. So out of all the doppelgangers they saw, the sister was seen. The son was seen, and the father was seen. Who was not seen?
The wife.
The wife was not seen again.
Anonymous.
Yeah, Anonymous was not seen. It begs to differ if you really want to think outside the box. It begs to question the fact that was she the doppelganger? And had she already taken over the wife's spot?
Huh.
Because again, it's odd that it would take the form of 3 out of the 4 of them.
Yeah, except for her.
Yeah.
Because she's already the one.
Exactly. She could very well be the one. That's the interesting thing. And, and again, back to the father-in-law, that man has to be something. That man has to be a beast or something because, and I'm sorry, hold on. A toaster with an egg maker? You know what an egg maker's called? A chicken. Okay? That is what an egg maker is called. That is ridiculous. That I don't even know what the hell is an egg maker. I'm about ready to call your wife in here and have her explain it because she probably knows what it is. Okay? But it seems odd that people will go to great lengths to come up with some sort of explanation just to not face what it could be. But to make such a reach like that it seems as if something was thrown at you, and you're gonna sit there and say, "Oh, it was vibrations."
Yeah.
That's a bit much.
Yeah.
That's a bit much. You know, but it was an interesting story. I did kind of like that one. That was good.
I read through quite a bit and
Yeah.
finally came across this one. It was just like
Yeah.
it was the only one that gave me chills at the moment. You know.
Now, what was it about that gave you the chills?
The doppelgangers.
Doppelgangers?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Doppelgangers are very, very
And
unnerving because everything I've kind of seen or read or heard is that they are spot on duplicates.
Yeah.
Spot on. And from what a lot of the common theories of what they look like in their natural form is literally a featureless, faceless creature. That allows for the changing into whatever.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, it's they get an exact copy of you, and that's creepy. It goes back to like the old.
Creepy.
It goes back to the old. It goes back to the old thing you used to see in like cartoons and stuff, where it's like the two same people fighting over. And it's oh shoot him, he's the fake one. Oh shoot him.
Yeah.
You know, and to be honest, if I'm ever in a situation like that, both fools are getting knocked the fuck out. I'm not playing that game. Yeah, I'm not playing that game because I'm gonna pray that it's the classic stereotype of, well, if he has to kind of concentrate and I knock his ass out, he'll go back to his normal form. Hopefully. But no, that was a good one, man. I like that one. All right, so my turn.
Yep. That's
All
your turn
right,
now.
so the topic I have chosen is a topic that is huge in pop culture now, and it kind of disturbs me because it's taken more of a scientific route than the actual mystic. Or everybody believes it has its roots out of science when its actual roots come from the mystic side of life, the actual supernatural. I did some research on zombies.
Zombies. All right.
Okay.
Right,
So
big one.
Oh yeah, it's a big one, and there is a lot on it. But I found that most of the stuff out there is again focused more on the concept of
Science.
Science. Zombies are all related to some sort of virus or a viral infection of some kind.
You just don't like me because I believe in science.
Exactly. Yeah. It's exactly what it is. I don't like that because the thing is they were initially built out of mysticism and pop culture has completely destroyed it. Completely. Okay? So let's look at just the actual dictionary definition. The first definition for it, and that is the body of a dead person given the semblance of life but mute and willless by a supernatural force, usually for some evil purpose. Okay? So it specifies supernatural in this, okay? But
we got some liquid courage here. So
absolutely. But pop culture has turned it into a virus. And whereas it's an interesting take and it's a very legitimate take, the fact is by doing that they have completely buried what it was initially.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I did some research on actual like the truth, the roots from where it comes from. Okay. So zombies again have become very popular, and a lot of people, for example, believe that the initial introduction was the movie Night of the Living Dead. Everybody is very familiar with that, whether they've seen it or not. Everybody knows it's a movie, and it was done by a George Romero, 1968. But that actually wasn't the first movie that brought it over. There's actually a movie 40 years before that called White Zombie.
White Zombie.
Yeah, I know, right? Not the band. Actual movie called White Zombie. And get this, starring none other than the horror master himself, Bela Lugosi.
Huh.
Okay. And that movie actually pulled it straight out of the actual history, which was that this is mostly comes from Haitian folklore from Haiti. Okay. All focusing around voodoo. Okay. The concept of it was pretty simple. I mean, pretty straightforward. A lot of people believed it was used as almost a punishment. Okay, so like Haitian zombies were said to be people brought back from the dead and sometimes controlled through magical means by voodoo priests called bakors or hungans. Sometimes the zombification was done as punishment, striking fear, but often the zombies were said to have been used as slave labor on farms and sugarcane plantations.
That's legit. That is the shit.
See?
That would be fucking awesome.
Okay? And that's what it was. That's where it all comes from. Okay? And like I said, most of this stuff a lot of it mainly comes out of Haiti. And that's because, again, voodoo's very big out there. That's one of the common things out there. And the belief out there in that is so strong that they truly believe that it is something that they need to fear. Okay? Like I said, I got a ton of information, so I'm trying to keep it all somewhat compact.
Hold on. So, imagine before you die, you can sign papers saying, when I die, bring me back as a slave.
Apparently you can. But most of this was usually forced upon them. And it's interesting because there was an actual book done by an author. I had it here a second ago. That he was actually a grad student from... Where is it? Here we go. One of the most famous studies of the Haitian zombies was an ethnobotanist. No fucking clue what that is. I didn't look that up. Okay. By the name of Wade Davis, in 1985, he wrote a book called The Serpent and the Rainbow, a Harvard scientist's astonishing journey into the secret societies of Haitian voodoo, zombies, and magic. Okay.
So,
he actually went out and did research and actually like immersed himself in the culture out there to try and understand all this stuff that was going on out there. Okay. It was seen as a highly controversial book at the time. He studied the case, and this was interesting. Probably, I believe it's like the only documented case of zombification of a guy named Clervius Narcisse. I believe the last name is pronounced Narcisse. A man believed to have been turned into an actual zombie through a combination of, and here's the interesting thing, combination of drugs, including pufferfish venom and toad venom, in order to mimic death, and then given the hallucinogenic drug tetrodotoxin, to keep him in a zombie-like state. So,
Romeo and Juliet.
supposedly what was supposed to happen.
Well, before we go on, I looked it up. Ethnobotany is the science of the study of plants in relation to their use by humans.
How the hell did that even come into existence? Who the fuck?
Well,
who comes up with these majors?
The picture
This is where
in
my
here,
tax dollars are going?
The picture in here is from the 1940s, so...
Back when it had little significance. And we're back. Sorry about that, guys. We're still working on grasping how long this actual recording program will let us talk your ears off. So, as we were saying, Justin, you had actually found that ethnobotanist.
Yes, the... Ethnobotany is the science of the study of plants in relation to their use by humans.
Which, is probably about as useful as that fucking major. So...
But that's how you get penicillin and all of that.
Penicillin was a fucking accident.
Still, you still get meds and stuff like that. And how the tribal people use it and blah, blah, blah.
All right, fine. I'll concede that point.
Just because I believe in
yeah, just because you believe in science. So anyways, as I was talking about the Haitians, it is estimated that 80 to 90% of them,
that's right.
Correct. 80 to 90% of Haitians actually serve the spirits or actually practice voodoo. And in voodoo, all people die in two ways. Naturally, sickness, God's will, however they want to call natural, and unnatural, so murder or before their time. And those who die unnaturally linger at their grave, unable to rejoin ancestors until the gods approve. And this is their belief.
In living form? Or
no,
non-living?
Non-living form.
Spiritual
form.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, at those times when they're just kind of hanging out, waiting for the gods to give them the thumbs up, their souls are vulnerable, and this is where the Bakor, the powerful sorcerer, can actually. They use bottles to actually lock the soul in,
Okay.
and they use it to control their undead but unliving bodies. You know, and that's kind of how, you know, for the slave labor. I mean, if you think about it, that's great slave labor. No pay, no food,
yeah.
no nothing.
Yeah.
Just get to work. Okay.
Till they
Now
fall
again, there's one actual incident that is recorded, and it is this guy, Clairvius Narcisse. And let me see, where's that stuff I had on him? It was actually interesting when I was just reading about him, because he apparently, they were talking about it, like when they were talking to him, he claims that he feels it was his brother who had a hand in him getting turned into a zombie. Because of the simple fact that, where are you? God damn it.
What? Okay, now the Haitians, do they call them zombies, or do they have their own?
No, it is. You know what? It's they actually looked into it. The topic, and the word zombie actually comes from a word from the Congo called it's zombie, Nzambi, and it actually means soul in Congo. Okay.
Oh, all right.
And it's like I said, it is a very real thing that they all get concerned about out there, because it's something they all believe in out there. And it's pissing me off that I can't seem to find that one thing I had on him, because it was actually really, like I said, it was really interesting about this guy, because it was an interesting thing, and I think I remember it for the most part, but I just wanted to try and see if I could find it again. Let me see here. God damn it. Anyway, for the most part, the basic rundown is he believed it was his brother who had a hand in this happening to him, because the two of them had a bit of an issue. But
Cain
what had
and
happened
Abel?
was, pretty much. But what had happened was his brother had shown up, I guess, and had used those drugs, the tetrodotoxin, to put him in that death-like state. People came by, they found him quote-unquote dead, buried him, and the Bakor showed up and I guess used the toad toxin as the hallucinogen, or something along that mixture, to bring him up. And according to him, he ended up showing back up in his village 16 years later.
What?
Yeah, 16 years. Apparently, according to him, 2 of those years were spent working in the sugarcane fields for this
As a
fucking
slave,
Bakor.
as a zombie slave.
As a zombie slave. And
But did he technically die?
technically, yes and no. That's the tough part, because again, because that tetrodotoxin was used, it's one of those things where, again, they're put in a death-like state, but not officially dead.
Okay.
Okay. But again, that's the tough part too, is because you're going off of what's being said. Okay, there's nobody ever actually got a chance, because what had happened was he worked for 2 years. According to him, he worked for 2 years in that sugar field, the sugarcane field, for that Bakor. The Bakor passed away, so it essentially set him free. And for 14 years, it took him. He wandered until he finally got his memory back of everything and found his way back to the village. And everybody recognized him. They all knew who he was.
Was he still the same? Did he still look the same?
Yes, he still looked the same, everything. Because again, based off of their belief, it's pretty much, again, I think pop culture has twisted zombies into being these things that their body is rotting and decaying.
Yeah.
They eat brains and they do all this stuff, all of which, mind you, stemmed from Night of the Living Dead, which was which was Romero's interpretation. Okay. They're using them for slave labor, and they're basically, to them, a zombie is a soulless
person,
minion, pretty much. Okay. So in a sense, when he came back to the village and told the village his story, they all believed him, because again, their belief in that was so strong that it's like, oh well, yeah, that totally makes sense. Well, why wouldn't it happen that way? But that's the only like real like Haitian documentation. Now, I've got a couple other ones here that were across the country or across the world of other zombie incidences that I found kind of interesting. So we've got one here where it says people are waking up at their own funerals. Okay. This past June, which let me see, this was
surprise.
Yeah, this was done. So this looks like it was June 2014. A 3-year-old girl woke up from the dead at her own funeral in the Philippines.
Nope.
In the Philippines. The child had been suffering from a fever and was taken to a hospital on Friday, where a doctor declared her without a pulse and dead Saturday morning. A neighbor who was attending the funeral lifted the coffin lid and saw the girl move her head. That's when she sprung to life and devoured the entire church. Oh, no. Kidding. No, the young girl was removed from the coffin and given water before taken to the hospital for examining. And let's see here. And if that's not strange enough, apparently something similar to that happened in Brazil in 2012. A 2-year-old boy who was thought to have been dead woke up and asked for a glass of water. As in the case of the Philippines, Kelvin Santos had been sick, and after he was declared dead by a doctor, his family didn't wait more than a few hours before having a wake. Just an hour before the funeral service was about to get underway, Kelvin sat up and said, "Daddy, can I have some water?" Okay. And, of course, Kelvin's family followed up a lawsuit with that hospital for medical malpractice. Okay. So, let's see here. This is China, 2012. A rather unsightly incident went down with a drunken Chinese bus driver who was angry about another motorist blocking his path. Rather than patiently wait for the other driver to move, the man began jumping on top of the woman's hood. Then, when she exited her car, things got particularly nasty, and the drunken man leaped upon her and began to chow down on her face.
So Spice. Or
He said he was drunk.
Drunk. All right.
Some believed that the bus driver was possessed by the Jiangshi, a hopping zombie creature of legend believed to kill and absorb the chi of the living.
Huh.
Okay. Let's see here. In the same year as the bus driver driving zombie attack, a retired teacher attacked a younger subway driver after squabble over a seat. The younger man had apparently shoved the 67-year-old out of the way when the older man began to attack, eventually biting repeatedly at the other man's face. Let's see here.
Was he drunk also?
Hey,
Maybe there's something in the liquor.
I think he was just old and angry at that point, okay? And of course, and this all seems to be coming from China, so I'm concerned about the stuff we're buying.
There's got to be something in the water.
Yeah.
I think
or the toys they're making for us, okay?
The first two had to do, they gave both of them water afterwards.
Well, the kids were sick. Now, I don't know how difficult, let me rephrase that. It's not difficult to find a pulse on an adult. I've never tried to find one on a child. I don't know if that's any difficult.
If done right, no, it's not. It's not hard at all.
So really, those two really ultimately come down to the simple fact that it sounds like it's just medical malpractice.
Yeah.
Because they just suck as doctors. Okay, fair enough. China, it sounds like it's been liquor up to this point, but this one's not liquor related. Li Zhufeng was 95 when she fell and suffered a head injury that left her laying in bed. The elderly woman was found by a neighbor who couldn't wake her and apparently thought, "I'm not a doctor, but this lady's obviously dead." Okay. The neighbor had the woman's body placed in a coffin where she was to remain for several days before burial in order to abide by local Chinese customs. Thankfully, the woman came to just one day before her funeral. Okay, so that means she was in there for a couple of days before she finally just came back. Okay, 95. I'm sorry, but if you take, I'm thinking if you take a hit to the head at 95, you shouldn't be coming back from that at all. Okay, so. The woman was later found... thankfully the woman, when she came to before her funeral, and climbed out of her casket when nobody was around. Okay. The woman was later found cooking because she was feeling hungry, as being dead for several days will do to a person.
Yeah.
So here's the shitty part. If being declared dead and shoved into a coffin wasn't bad enough, the poor lady woke up to find that her neighbor had destroyed or given away all of her stuff because that's what the tradition called for.
Okay.
So she now has nothing. I'm sorry. At that point, I'd want to be a zombie. I'm like, I got nothing. No reason for me to be kicking around. Yeah. Now, this one, I didn't know about this one. I found this kind of interesting. This is a drug-related one.
Okay.
Well, and this
So
is...
back to
actually,
the-
yeah, I was going to say,
the-
this one's
the
drug-related,
Haitian-
and it's more of a combination zombie/cannibal.
Okay.
Okay. And apparently, I'd never even heard of this guy. Rapper Big Lurch, who was sentenced to life in prison after smoking PCP and then attacking his then roommate Tanisha Isais, eating her face and... No, here's the kicker. Not only her face, eating her lungs.
What the fuck?
Like, this fool, like, cracked that rib cage like a fucking... like a crab claw. Okay. When the police finally arrested Big Lurch, he was naked and covered in blood, yelling at the sky in the middle of the street.
Drugs will do that to you.
Yeah. Okay. Now, here's this one I actually found. Everybody's going to remember this one. I know they're going to remember this one. But there was a interesting bit of information I found out about this that I did not know.
Okay. 2
things, actually. So we'll go from here. Then there's the infamous Miami Cannibal. Okay?
Well,
Or as they called him, the Causeway Cannibal. Okay? Because he found that homeless guy in, like, one of their causeways and went after him. Okay? Had to shoot him multiple times, all that stuff. Here's the interesting thing about this guy. So I was looking it up. Can you take a guess what his heritage is?
where is he from?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Or like what his nationality would be. He's first generation American.
Hey, you know what? We'll go with the theme. Let's go with Asian.
He's not Asian. He's Haitian.
Oh.
I found that interesting. He's Haitian and he's fucking chowing down on the guy. And according to toxicology reports, only thing in his system, like they were talking bath salts initially. Only thing in his system was marijuana.
Okay.
And I don't think I've ever seen, like, a marijuana gives you the munchies, but I've never seen it give you munchies for the flesh.
No.
Okay? So what...
No.
By finding out that he's Haitian, now mind you
a
again,
different kind of flesh. Maybe
Right.
like a burger or something.
Exactly. Now, I found that interesting because of the fact that his parents are both from Haiti. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They divorced. His dad, I guess, passed away when he was like 5 or 6. So it makes me wonder how far into his own culture and his own heritage was he? Because this could still easily be on a level of voodoo, even though they never found like necessarily like evidence of this. Doesn't mean they weren't. That doesn't mean they were looking for it initially.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So I find it interesting that he suddenly, it's like, you know, we've already gone over the fact that this is all like it roots in Haiti, and he's Haitian. So I found that kind of interesting.
Just looked at the picture.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Rudy Eugene, interesting name,
looks like
but
a real winner.
You know, he's definitely something else.
Looks like a guy I went to high school with.
You know what? I don't know. Did you go to North Miami?
No, I did
All
not.
right. So yeah, I found that's basically the meat and potatoes of the whole zombie history and culture, is that it's not based out of a viral scientific area. It's based out of mysticism that has been twisted by pop culture, and to be honest, that's what kind of bugs me, because zombies are a cool concept and a very interesting, I should say, topic. You know, a very interesting mysticism to it that people just completely forgotten because they all want to believe in the fact that it's ultimately going to be a virus. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's a very good possibility. It's very possible with the amount of stuff that just goes around and the fact that viruses are built to basically evolve and adapt. It's only a matter of time. Okay?
Yeah.
And just to add some fun to that statement, have you visited the zombie apocalypse section in the CDC's website?
I have not.
They have one. They actually
You know
have
what?
a
I do
preparedness.
remember hearing that. Yes.
And everybody
yes.
thought it was just some joke. And here's the kicker: when it first came up, the website crashed because it had too many visitors. too many. And it's funny because when you actually look into it and read about it, the CDC's comment on it is basically if you're prepared for a zombie apocalypse, you are pretty much prepared for any other state of emergency, because it's to that level of preparedness that you try and make.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes
You need food,
total
you
sense.
need water, you need all this stuff that you would need for a hurricane, a tornado,
Yeah.
anything. So
Yeah.
so they took it as, you know what, fine, we'll play off of this and we'll show you what's best to do to prepare for a zombie apocalypse, because if you're prepared for this, you're prepared for anything.
Anything, yeah.
And if that's what it takes to get you people to be prepared for emergencies, then so be it. And, you know, I kind of took a peek at it, and it's interesting. It's interesting, you know. But yeah, I want people to realize that it's not.
What's the website for that?
It's actually if you just put in Center for Disease Control
Okay.
and go to their main website, that will pop up.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually go in and you will actually see zombie preparedness, like in their sidebar, if I remember correctly.
That's amazing.
Right? Yeah, Center for Disease Control. You can go to the menu. Was it menu or CDC A through Z? Oh, you know what? They've got a search bar. I just went to the website, hit search, and I put in zombie, and I got a bunch of stuff come up for zombie. Okay. But it's one of those things where, you know, depending on who listens to this, especially the younger crowd who all think it's just based around viruses and viral and science, that's not where it started.
Yeah, right.
It started in a more supernatural realm, and again, the dictionary flat out specifies that it is a supernatural force. Mm-hmm. And at some point, we can even get into other depths where, you know, if we talk about magic users, necromancers are very well known for bringing the dead back to an undead life, so to speak.
Okay.
And that can be talked about at a later
Frankenstein
episode.
and
Something similar along those lines. But yeah, like I said, zombies are one of those cool things that was really getting under my skin about the fact that everybody's making it out to be some virus, which again, it's possible, but come on, we got to get back to the roots eventually.
I think if there were to be a zombie outbreak, that's where it would generate from now. If it were to happen now.
Mm-hmm.
But this, you know, the Haitian stuff, the Asian stuff, you know, I believe in all that culture, you know, that's just all that possibly happening, and you know,
that's
hard to explain stuff.
It is, and that's what it is for them. It's always based around belief, and if you believe something hard enough, and if you believe and enough people believe it, it eventually becomes a reality.
Yeah,
and I think it's very possible that could happen, and even then, technically. You know, if you really wanted to combine the two, I mean, with some of the things that go on around our country, some of these higher up, like I guess you would call them upper echelon countries, there's a form of zombification taking place every day. I mean, look at half of the people, at least half of the people, are practically drones.
yeah.
You know, there's talk about the government wanting us to be drones for them. The less educated you are, how is that any different from a zombie? You know, so yeah, that's my topic for the day.
All right.
So, join us next time. We will have a couple new topics for you, and hopefully it will run a little bit smoother and not just randomly stop in the middle. But I am Troy Malinowski.
I'm Justin Acosta.
And this was Supernaturally Speaking. Talk to you guys later.